Welcome to the low end. This is the Headbangers Australia exclusive, the only interview we get to interview bassists on the YouTube platform because no one wants to talk to the bassists. But we do, because we love the bassists.
Bass is the most important, mate, you should know.
Yeah, fuck yeah, of course I know it's important, man. That's why it's all on this fucking show, you know? Like, you know, if I wanted to talk about guitars, I fall asleep.
Well, when I picture bass, like whether I'm playing, you know, metal or whatever, I picture bass as the thread that sort of joins all the pieces together, whether it's the rhythm or the melody. The bass is something that sort of doesn't have a really tight home, but it can sort of wander around, and that's why I love playing bass.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, that's a good way analogy to look at it. I never thought like that. For me, when I look at the bass, it's like there's two ways in metal. You either lock with the traditional rock, you lock in with the drums, and you just go with the beats, or the guitars for certain riffs. But with metal drumming, you know, you got a drum that has a lot of rides, a lot of hats, and there's a lot of ways you can incorporate that bass, and that's why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of ways you can approach the bass, but I think that from the first point of view really is you have to serve the song that you're playing, you have to serve the band that you're in.
Yep.
And nowadays, lots of people are in multiple bands, so you need to have, you know, a lot of different hats on, and you shouldn't play the same all the time for every band. If you're in a two-guitar band, it'll be different to how you play when you're in a one-guitar band like Carbon Black. So all these different approaches, and so as a bass player, I think you need to be versatile in that way.
Yeah, because that's good that you brought that up, because it's something that I've never had that conversation with someone before. Like when I joined Effigy of Madness, it was more like the tradition, you lock them in the drums and you lock them in the guitar. And then when I went to live with Vendetta, and I was with Ben was the guitarist, he basically wrote the songs for that band. What I've learned there, what I learned from Effigy was different with Level, because with Level it was very guitar driven, so you had to play more with the guitars, and then when certain beats off Level Vendetta songs, where Morris was going bang, 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 that's where, okay, cool, that's where I can use that bass for those impacts, for those notes. But with Level it was very flashy, so you gotta always stick with the guitar lines and do as much as you can, because if you implement it on your own, it got lost with the foundations of that music. So that's good that you brought that up, because it's very different styles for different bands that you approach with the bass. Yeah,
it's a very important thing to be conscious of, So particularly we're talking about Carbon Black, but for a band like Carbon Black where we have one guitar, there's a lot more space for me to be adventurous in that way. And Damon and I, we work together very well like that, and because we've played together for so long, there'll be spaces in a song where Damon's he's just chugging away, he's just doing a straight sort of rhythm part, and I know that's a space where I can maybe, you know, be adventurous. Well, there's other parts where a part of a song where Damon might be doing something very melodic, and I know I need to sort of bring it back. Just follow what my bro Steve is doing on the drums, and sort of coast along. So it's really about knowing your place and knowing, you know, what's appropriate for the song you're playing. But that's why I think playing in a band like Carbon Black as a three-piece, that's for me. That's a lot of fun for me as a bass player.
Oh yeah, because what I've noticed when I watch the Carbon Black gigs, it's that you've got more free reign with your bassist with certain songs. And then when Damo does his things, you do hold back, and I've seen it all when I see these guys play live. Like, there's moments where you shine, and there's also a good platform for other bassists that when they have one guitar, they do have that freedom to be a lead bassist, and for them to explore, and for them to go, you know, I've seen bands like Gossica, for example, you know, like now that they've only got one guitar, there's more avenue, and that's one thing that I think people don't really value on the bassist front when they think about if they only got one guitar on stage, you know, like that, and having that extra bass, that low end gives that whole piece, like you don't actually need a second guitar unless you do leads. I mean, it actually can work to its advantage. It depends on the craft of the band's artistic with their music.
Yeah, well, in Carbon Black, all of our songs have a lead break. There's a solo in almost every song, But we find that when Damon is doing a solo, that's an opportunity where Steve and I, particularly when we're recording, we kind of iron these things out, but it evolves more as we perform the songs live. But we sort of take those spaces underneath the solos. Steve and I kind of look at each other and we add some accents here, or we can, you know, take it a little bit somewhere else, or we might follow what Damon's doing. We might sort of take a bit of a cue from, you know, a little lick he's doing in his solo, and we'll go, oh, we'll play off that, you know. So not having a rhythm guitar under solos all the time, it's really frees you up to sort of do some different stuff.
Well, that's awesome, man. How's the year been for coming back for 2024? Like, because it was just, it's been a while since I caught up with you. So.
Yeah, well, we've for this year we're sort of coming off the tail end of about a year ago we released the international version of our last album, which is We Remain. Is that right there?
Yep.
So We Remain, we got some of the best reviews that we've ever had for our recorded sort of work. We got some absolutely amazing reviews, and releasing the special edition of that last year was a big deal for us because we had bonus tracks on it, and we finally got to release it in Japan as well, which was a huge thing for us, and that was with the Wormhole Death people.
Yep.
So yeah, we're sort of coming off the tail of that, and now we hit 2024, which is our 10th anniversary as a band. It's our 10th anniversary since we did this EP, Principium.
Oh, yep.
So that was 10 years ago, and also 10 years since our live debut as well. So, and it's amazing, like for us, like we look at each other and go, was that 10 years? Well, where did that go? It's just amazing to think that it's all gone so quickly, but it's a milestone worth achieving, and a lot of bands don't make it. A lot of bands didn't even make it through COVID. So I think the fact that we're still here, and I think anyone who's sitting here will say that COVID was a tough time. You know, not getting opportunities to play live music. And that sort of thing. It was a lot to navigate through for anybody, but it's keeping a band together and coming out of it the other side. We kept ourselves busy through COVID by demoing songs, swapping ideas, and we got a few opportunities to actually go in the studio. Numbers were limited, so we couldn't all go together. It was basically us and our producer Lockie. Oh, sorry, I'll say us, but it was whoever was tracking at the time. And our producer Lockie, and we could lock ourselves in the studio and get our work done just piece by piece. We took our time with it, and that's when we ended up with We Remain.
It's a good album, We Remain. Guys, I recommend to listen to it. I think I got the physical copy of We Remain, and I think I got Principium as well. But I actually enjoyed it. Like one of the tracks, it was like Red Flags, one of my favourite songs.
Yeah, awesome. We're very proud of that one.
Just like it was always hearing it. I was just like, I just love just go blown away with it, man. Like I like it that much. I struggle with my words, you know.
That's awesome.
But how I found out with Carbon Black, because it's funny that you mentioned. I forgot we had COVID, but I remember.
It's easy to forget now.
Yeah.
Wasn't that long ago?
I remember because there was a band called Production, and I used to, when they were setting up, that was Darren, Benji, and they were doing some production, and they found Carbon Black because I think that the guy that was doing the artwork, I think they were doing the same for your band, or I think they were doing the same for them. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay,
And that's how the name got brought up to my attention, and that's how I got that connection with Carbon Black once I heard that from Darren, and when he had Production. And that's how I found that the Carbon Black, they played that kind of metal, and it's I kind of like that kind of groove. It's very easy to listen to. It helps me zone out when I just need that zone out. So that's what I love about Carbon Black's music.
Awesome.
But I never asked you, but how did the band? You said it was 10 years ago, but how did it all come started? How did the band all start, man? Basically.
So, Carbon Black. So we've all been in bands together in the past. So for Damon, our guitarist, and Steve, my brother, our drummer, Damon and Steve were in a band together called Demigod in the 90s, and that was there was a metal band, but I'd compare it to your kind of like 90s, a little bit Metallica-ish, even a little bit sort of that Danzig, early era Danzig, a bit of that sort of feel too, sort of dark and rocky, and so they were in a band together, And then later, Damon and I were in a band together called Necrophist.
Yep.
And we did some really great stuff with Necrophist. We didn't travel or tour very far. We didn't play a lot of shows. We only really played locally.
Yep.
But with Necrophist, that sort of reached a stage where it couldn't go any further. And but Damon and I still wanted to work together.
Yep.
And we had songs that we'd been working on together.
Yep.
And it really was just a matter of us finding a drummer and a singer. So it happened very, very easily. We knew John. So John, we'd worked with before. He'd actually stepped in to Necrophist and filled in for at a last minute gig, and he really impressed us. He was so professional. We were at our rehearsal with Jono, like preparing for the gig that he was helping us with, and he was doing vocal warm-ups outside in the studio, and we were looking at each other like, how professional is this guy? He's doing vocal warm-ups. I'd never heard anyone doing that. He's like, yo, 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 yo. And he's like, he sounded like a trollolol guy, you know? And we were like, it just seemed so professional, you know? And we were really, really impressed with John, how he pulled us out of the shit, really, on that gig. And so we thought, like, he was the first and the only name that came up when it come to, like, when we're looking for a singer, it's like, we've got to call that guy, you know? So, and we're still together now. Jono is an awesome singer, dedicated to his craft, professional, and he's the most egoless frontman that I've ever met. Sometimes to his own detriment. The guy he's no ego, very, very humble guy, but awesome ability, and he can do from your Freddie Mercury, awesome clean singing, because he has a theatre background, so he can do amazing, like Freddie Mercury style, soaring vocals, all the way to aggressive growls and stuff. So he's got a really versatile range, and very easy guy to work.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's very humble. Every time I see him, he's always hi.
Super nice guy.
I'm like, he's on stage and he's singing the song. He's 1 minute, it's like, I'm like, that's his way of expressing his anger, I guess. But other than that, he's like very humble, man. And it's good that you guys have been around for 10 years with that same lineup, you know. And it's like, because sometimes to do what we do, to be in scenes, people have their day jobs and personal circumstances, and that can always impact on the bands going forward. But to have that consistency, it's kind of rare. So it's also, I guess you got to be very grateful that you guys have that solid line. I mean, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. We're very fortunate to have that, and we get along as friends, you know, as well as being in a band. I think that's really important that you have that sort of connection, that you've got things in common. Yeah. I think even if we weren't in a band together, we would still, go out for schnitzel, it's like that sort of thing. We get along, we hang out as friends, as well as being in a band is like it's being in a business or a marriage. All of those sort of, there's parallels everywhere, which we could do a whole other episode about, which I could talk about forever, but it's, I'm sure you've been there. But no, we get along great as friends and in the band as well. So, but the important thing about any band, or whether you're in a sporting team or or you're in business together or whatever it is, I think the recipe for success, I should say, is that you're all working together and you're pulling in the same direction. You've got to be working for a common goal. And if you don't have that understanding or respect for each other, really, there's no point in pursuing. You're just wasting everyone's time, really. So that's the reality of it, and I think it's a no-brainer, particularly for us. So.
It's funny that you say you guys are best mates, because one of the members of the band, Damo Bishop. How are you, Damo? Good, lovely guy. I love him so much.
This is about me.
Yeah, okay, mate. Wait till I fucking he's keen. He goes like, he's keen. But I was going to say, Damo's such a nice bloke that he lets you in the studio. You get to see all the Dimebag guitars. You get to see all his collections. And I'm like, it's kind of weird, because normally the guitarists don't invite the bassist. So it's kind of like, wow, you're a good mate with him. But it's like, I didn't expect Damo to like his bassist that well.
Well, he's only human.
It's like, Yeah, well, you know, like, has he got a bass at least in that in his fucking studio?
I'm not aware of. I've never seen a bass in his collection, no. But my bro Steve, he's a drummer, and he owns a bass guitar. He's got a bass guitar at his place, so you know, go figure.
Well, you know.
Drummers are, you know, they've got these little hidden abilities that you don't know about. They're very, you know.
It's funny about drummers, man, because 1 minute they're on your side. This is what my experience with drummers. 1 minute they're on your side, and then the guitarist makes fun of the bassist, and it's fucking, the drummer is more neutral. They're like, I gotta go with the guitars because I gotta go to the guitarist, it's more safe. And then they go fucking gang up on the bassist. I cop them a lot.
All right.
So it's always like, I'm like, we're in the same fucking department.
The rhythm section.
The rhythm section.
Solid. Yeah.
You know. And speaking of what, like Damo mentioned earlier, he's a big Pantera fan. You know, I'm sure like, what's you got any stories that you like to share with Damo and his love for Pantera?
Well, we actually we got the opportunity to support Hell Yeah a few years ago now, and yeah, that was an amazing experience. So obviously, Vinnie Paul was the drummer in Hell Yeah, so yeah, there's some photos out there. Damo, you know, got to meet Vinnie Paul, which was it's a huge moment for him. I met Vinnie Paul much earlier in 2014 when I was in LA, but I've also met Dimebag as well.
Oh, sick!
Yeah, so there'll be a photo which will come up right here. There's a photo of when I met Dimebag. So in '94, Pantera was out here. That's 30 years ago, actually.
Wow.
It was 30 years ago last week. And while Pantera was here, they did it was like Sydney Guitar Expo, I think it was called, in Darling Harbour.
Yeah.
And it's sort of similar to the NAMM show sort of thing, big exhibition centre full of all different retailers and stuff. But Dimebag was there. And I jumped in the queue and I got to meet him and got a whole bunch of photos. I had my camera with me. Big Val took my camera off me and just went crazy. I got like half a roll of just random photos and stuff. But yeah, you can see in the photo there, Dimebag he pulled out. I was, you know, had my arm around him. He reached in his back pocket. I'm like, what's he doing? He pulled out a texter and just went, zoom, zoom, like put a cross on my forehead. And you can see the look on my face. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know what he was doing, but he drew on my forehead. It's hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, it's really good to sort of have that moment with him, and it's something that I'll always treasure that.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Awesome, cool dude. And yeah, really, you could tell he's the sort of guy he was all about the fans, and really he couldn't give enough time. Really, he was, really good to have had that.
Yeah, it's good. Like Dimebag's probably I think he's one of the most influential guitarists that in metal. You know, like how I got into metal was Pantera. Like I listened to a bit of Metallica, but Pantera was my gateway to explore the whole thing. And I was about 96, 97.
Yeah.
I got into Pantera, and that's when I started to love metal more. That was like Metallica led me in, but Pantera opened the gates. You know, and I always think that the third album, you know, Unbroken, you know, 5 Minutes Alone, those tracks that's brought up, and as a bassist, you hear Rex's inputs in Pantera's input, you know, because similar, Dimebag was a guitar, everyone knows what Dimebag did, but Wex was also a good contributor, and Finney as well. Everyone in that band were all contributing. Awesome band.
The interesting thing with Pantera is that, like, despite being such a consistent sounding band, if you listen from one album to the next, their sound actually changes a lot.
Yes.
They're very, very different sounding band, and even Rex's bass sound evolves a lot. If you go from like Cowboys and then you put on like Far Beyond Driven, very, very different sounding bass. The bass has a different place in the mix and a different tone, a different sound. It's much more rattly. And you can go out there on YouTube and find all kinds of like isolated bass tracks and stuff. But yeah, and similar to, I sort of compare Rex to David Ellefson in that way where I know Pantera is a three-piece, this one guitar band, Megadeth's a two guitar band, but the way that they make their bass sit in the mix is very, very similar. The way they have their tone, it's very interesting, a lot to learn there.
Did he also he had a Spectre bass as well, eh? Because I'm a Spectre fan, and I think Rex was
Rex was with Spectre. He's had a few different endorsements through the years. He was with Gibson for a little while there too. But he's been around a bit. A lot of those guys sort of chop and change and sort of not particularly loyal throughout their whole career. Not like guys like Lars Ulrich or Charlie Benanti, who just been with Tama for 40 years, which they're awesome videos too if you get a chance to watch some of that stuff. But it seems to be a bit of a rarity where you have a person endorsed with a single brand for such a long time. I can't think of any bassists that are like that at all.
Endorsements like. Probably what I remember when we were setting up, you were talking about your endorsement experience. Like, if there's anyone up and coming that's looking to have a career, like to extend their musicianship, and they always look at endorsement, like, is there any feedback that you can advise them, or is there anything that you can talk about your experience about your time and what you felt the endorsement was like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to get the most out of an endorsement, really, it needs to be a mutual relationship, particularly in Australia, because it's such a small market. It's very different to what you would expect, in somewhere like America or in Europe, where it's a much bigger market. But in Australia, the best you can really hope for is you might get a bit of a discount off some products, and you put their logo on your gig posters and that sort of thing. It's a mutual relationship where they might sort of plug you a bit, you plug them a bit, and it's good if you have new music coming out or if you have a tour to promote. It's very handy from that perspective. My experience, I was with a bass guitar company called MTD, Mike Tobias, which lovely people. I started with the Australian distributor, and I got a fantastic 5-string bass, which I used a lot in my band Necrophist at the time. And the distributor for Australia folded. And I was loving the bass, and I wanted to continue that relationship, and I thought, well, what can I do? So I took the initiative. I actually went straight to the American distributor.
Oh, okay.
And I hit them up and I said, look, this has happened in Australia, and I'd really like to continue the relationship. And they said, sure thing, no worries.
Wow, cool.
And so that relationship continued there. But what it led to was a really good opportunity where I got to travel over to the States and attend the NAMM show.
Oh, the NAMM show.
Yeah, it's like Mecca. It's the most amazing.
I love to go to the NAMM show.
Yeah, it's not easy to get into. You need to pass, or but you never know. One day with the YouTube channel, you might.
That'll be awesome to do the low end at NAMM, where I'll be like going, don't worry about the guitars. You got so many contents on YouTube. Let's do the bass. That was awesome going on NAMM. What was that like? Well, how long has NAMM been going for now?
Oh, NAMM's been going for decades, a long time.
Wow.
So it was 94, 10 years. Sorry. 2014. Feels like. No, it's 2014. I was at the NAMM show in Anaheim. Yeah. So, and that was just when Carbon Black was starting. So we just finished recording the EP at that time. I had a whole bunch of special mixes that didn't have the bass mixed in them. And I went there as a rep for MTD, and I played in the booth with the backing tracks, and I played my MTD bass. I haven't got my MTD bass with me today.
Oh, that's all right.
But I'm playing my Warwick at the moment. I don't use the MTD much anymore these days, but that was an awesome experience though, like going to the NAMM show, meeting like some of my biggest heroes, and it's not just a metal thing, NAMM show, you've got
versatile,
jazz people, you've got, you name it, all sorts of, I got to meet one of my favourite all-time bassists, Anthony Jackson, who's a jazz player.
Oh, okay.
And there's a photo of that here.
He's been doing his homework. He's like, I like how you've done the episodes of Laura, and he's like, photo there. It's like, I might not put a photo.
Hey mate, I did my research.
I'll be like doing posts and like, anyway.
For meeting Anthony Jackson, for me that was a really, really big deal, because just Google his name, Anthony Jackson, the bassist, and he's played on. He's a session guy. He's played on so many. He's he's Madonna, Chaka Khan. He's just been He's been around a long time, and he's played on all sorts of amazing amazing stuff, and really, really nice guy. So that was a highlight for me.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, the whole NAMM show in 2014 was just mind blowing. It goes for 3 days. Like you finish one day and then you go the next day, and it's like, well, what am I going to find today? Who am I going to meet? Yeah. It's just mind blowing.
It's like when I learned how to play the bass, like jazz was one of the other genres that I got more into studying. Yeah. Because I found with jazz was that it was free rein to improvise, and especially the walking bass lines in jazz, and if you're playing in E, you get that freedom, and I think that what I didn't know that you were into that kind of the jazz aspect, and it kind of reflects that on how you play your bass when I hear you live, and I see how you play your music. Yeah. And you were saying that free rein. So was there any other influence that you had as well growing up when you were playing your bass on your craft? Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I like philosophically speaking, I see music like food in a lot of ways. You can't just, if all you ever ate was sandwiches, then it'd be a pretty boring life. And it's the same with music. If all you ever listen to is metal, I know there's some people who are happy to do that, or they just listen to metal. They wake up, listen to metal, they go to bed listening to metal, and that's fine if that's all you need in life. I couldn't go every day eating sandwiches for breakfast and sandwiches for dinner. That's not how I see, I don't like to eat food like that. I don't like to listen to music like that. So I grew up, before I was even enrolled in primary school, I started at the conservatorium in Wollongong.
Oh, okay,
doing classical music. So I come from a pretty musical family. Obviously my brother Steve plays drums, but we both studied at the conservatorium as kids. We learned piano, we learned classical music. And my sister Sally as well, so there's 3 of us in my family, and we've played together, the 3 of us. My sister Sally plays keyboards. We've years ago we were in a cover band together. We did that for a long time. So very musical family. My mum played piano. Both of my grandmothers played piano. So I come from that sort of background. So classical music as a really young kid, all through primary school. During high school, I got my first sort of listen I first heard metal. Really, and I remember I was on a school excursion on the bus, and we all had our Walkmans back in the day, a little tape player, and I had my Walkman, and we were sort of we're unplugging our headphones and sharing the tape decks, right?
Oh, okay,
Which was, like, in hindsight, it's like sort of the equivalent today, be sharing playlists or something. But I'd unplugged my, I can't even remember what I had on my Walkman. Probably like Little River Band or something like that. I used to love that sort of stuff. I still love that sort of music, 70s rock. And a mate of mine, gave me his tape deck and plugged it in, and it was Somewhere in Time, Iron Maiden.
Oh!
Because at the time, I think I'd been talking to him, and I sort of said, look, I've been getting into this guitarist Joe Satriani, and I'd just got Not of This Earth was Joe Satriani's first instrumental guitar album. And I was really loving that, and that sort of that instrumental guitar and the solos, and it was coming from like my growing up, the classical sort of world. I was blowing my mind listening to all that sort of stuff, and my mate said, well, if you love that, that guitar work, you should hear Iron Maiden. I'm like, sure. Plug in my headphones, and that was another moment that I always remember. Was just like hearing. It started with the start of Somewhere in Time. And I'll never forget hearing that through the headphones, and just this mind-blowing. Can't even describe it, but
mate, when you hear Iron Maiden, it's like the guitars in Iron Maiden, they have their characters, but Steve Harris' bass lines it's so identifiable with Steve Harris. Like everyone that listens, even guitarists I talk to, they always talk about Steve Harris. It's like they love his bass, and then when they guitarists rarely talk about bass, they do talk about Steve Harris. And also Joe Satriani. Was growing up, Joe Satriani, when I was listening through those old tape headphones.
Absolutely.
And VHS, my neighbour was a guitarist growing up in the good old suburb in Bexley, and he had Joe Satriani. And
The Satch tapes, the VHS.
yeah, I think it was live. I think it was live in San Francisco. I can't remember the DVD, but
Oh yeah.
and or earlier. And there was and I was just learning how to play bass at high school. Like I was more into guitars. So, I confess, but because you thought if you want to be cool, you play guitar, but deep down the bass is the best.
Yeah.
And there was this bassist called Stuart Hum.
Yes, Jam, yeah.
And I'm like, wow, he plays well. And he's like, oh, he's one of the best. And then when growing older, I would visit Joe Satriani live in San Francisco on the DVD. I've got it on one of my personal collections.
Yeah.
And I just see, and he's like, wow, it's mind blowing him playing the bass and stuff like that. It's like, it's good that we're good to reconcile, negotiate, nostalgia.
Yes.
On certain things, those memories, and it's good to have that kind of those influences that stay forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think that's musically speaking how I got into metal. But as a bass player, I always loved McCartney. McCartney for me was the ultimate bass player. Like all growing up. We didn't have a lot of Beatles records at home, but my mum had heaps of Wings albums, like that's Paul's 70s sort of work. And as a kid, I loved hearing the bass there. And there's a particular an album called Back to the Egg where I love the bass sound in that album, and there's a couple of songs where it actually has bass solos in some of them too, which you wouldn't even know if you weren't listening for it. You wouldn't know about it. But so as a bass player, that's probably what really influenced me to pick it up. I'd say if I had to put it in one word, I would say McCartney. But then, like I said, in high school, listening to metal, hearing Iron Maiden, and from there, you mentioned Manowar before. It was a quick, it wasn't a very big step to start listening to Manowar, and that it's a bit of a guilty pleasure. I think a lot of people will say that they have a Manowar period early on.
I haven't had experience that yet.
And that all leads to obviously, and from there, Pantera. But bass players that I really admired from the metal world in the 90s, I started listening to a band called Prong.
I've heard of the name,
the guitarist and singer Tommy Victor is an amazing rhythm guitar player. But there's a pair of albums in the 90s, Cleansing was the first one, where he had a bass player called Paul Raven. And again, I associate this with Carbon Black a lot because they were essentially a three-piece where they had rhythm guitar, bass and drums. And the way that Paul really made the bass sit and the presence that he had as a bass player had a really big effect on me. So I'd put that in my top three for sure.
Oh, awesome, bro.
Paul Raven's work in Prong had a really big effect on me. And then there's other bass players. Obviously, you got your Geezer Butler. You've got Billy Gould in Faith No More.
Oh, he's one of my favourites too. Dude,
the bass in Angel Dust, the musicianship and the sound of the bass in Angel Dust. So that was a huge thing for me at the time. That album, I still put it on today, and it doesn't age.
Nah, mate, the good thing when I listen to it, every time I revisit Faith No More, hearing Billy Gould's tone. Even when they did the last one, I think it was Superhero.
Superhero.
It was one of the songs. I mean,
Sol Invictus.
Sol Invictus, and that bass, you hear that, you hear Billy Gould, he's like, it's like I'm just like in heaven,
It's a legend. It's amazing stuff.
Speaking of awesome bassists, Carbon Black is known for me, but I like the tone of the bass of Carbon Black. And you mentioned earlier, 10 years ago, you did, I hope my Latin is good, Principium.
Yes.
It's been 10 years that you've done it, and you guys are basically doing a remaster.
So the go with Principium 2.0 really is it's all the tracks from our first EP. We've re-recorded them. There's some that we recorded some time ago, but they've been remixed. So it's new interpretations of all of those songs, really, because I think the way that those songs were recorded, there was limitations back then, like playing wise in the band. We had a different drummer play on that as well. So there's a lot of things that we're still proud of it, but there's things that we regretted about it too, where we think we can really do that a lot better. And also the songs have evolved as well, because we've been playing those songs live for 10 years. Yeah. The way that we play them now is very different to how they were recorded on that EP. So the Principium 2.0, we really want to represent how we play them now. Yeah. How the songs have evolved and how we've evolved as a band as well. I think the songs are more aggressive. Yep. You got my brother playing drums on them now. There's nothing touching him. He's just all over that stuff. Yep. And we're very, very, very proud of how it turned out. And I think it really represents. If I was to pick anything to say, how's the band changed in 10 years? Yeah. Have a listen to that, and then have a listen to that.
Oh yeah, man.
Principium 2.0 is it's a whole other world from where we started, and I think sometimes to figure out where you're going next, you need to look at where you've come from. Yeah, yeah. So I think that's it's a good way to sort of to consolidate all that.
Alright, we're back in the video now, and we've got Rob's gear. So this is pretty much the Harkey Kilo. So I like Harkeys, they're actually a good brand. I've got the Harkey speakers, but what do they like as an amp?
As an amp, yeah, very reliable, built like a tank, awesome. And the Harkey Kilo, obviously 1,000 watts. Yeah. A lot of punch. Yeah, it's got more oomph than you would ever need for any little pub gig, but it's fantastic. Actually, what put me onto the Kilo is that it's used by Rex Brown and Geezer Butler. Oh. So that's for a long time they sort of endorsed that head. So that's what put me onto it, and yeah, it's fantastic. It's got tone, it's got aggression, it's got all the oomph you need. Heavy as fuck to carry around. It's not like some little amp you fit in your pocket. Yeah. If that's what if that's what you like, if that's what gets you by, then that's the like. But yeah, you can't beat this for some.
Yeah, when you was warming up your tone, your gear, it's got a punch. Yeah, that's what I like about this head. It's got a punch, and then basically you got David Eden, that's your speed cannon. So you use 2 on stage. Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I use I've got a 4x10. Yep. And I've got the 15. Yep. So, yeah. Occasionally we obviously, some gigs have good backline. So if the backline has an 8x10, I'm happy as anything. Because an 8x10 really to me is a real luxury. But yeah, this is my gigging rig. Whenever I sort of play somewhere within driving distance, this is what I use. Oh, awesome, man! Awesome. And on the pedal board. You've got a dark glass. I'm a big dark glass fan, man. If I'm back in the band, but once we have endorsement, I really want a dark glass endorsement, man. So you got the Alpha Omega, which is, those who are not aware of the Alpha Omega, it's based on Cool's basis, because he came in dark glass. The guy that owns dark glass was like the Cool Sons Awake tone, and he got him to fly over to modify this tone. So this is kind of like a bit of Australian, just Alpha Omega. And we met those guys were actually in the studio on the same day that we were. There's rehearsal spaces nearby the studio where we were recording, so we crossed paths with those guys. It was nice to meet them. That's awesome, man. Yeah, really good guys. But I didn't say to him at the time, "Hey man, I'm using your pedal." I sound like a bit of a fanboy. But no, they're super nice guys. But the Alpha Omega, prior to having the dark glass pedal, I was using Sans Amp for a long time. The Sans Amp I was happy with, but until I heard this. The Sans Amp to me, there was always a point where I felt like I'm just like a little bit grittier and a little bit more. I want to have a bit more aggression in the sound. I still have the Sans Amp, and I love it. I use it in recordings. But for playing live, the Alpha Omega for me, it's awesome, bro, awesome. And then we've got another dark glass, which is the Habanulu, yeah, these are the compressing pedals, so I better not touch those buttons because they're very touch sensitive. I remember that.
They are, yeah, there's two touch sensitive pads on there, yeah.
And now the good thing about you obviously that's a volume controller, but what I like about you got a flanger and you got a wah, and you probably got people telling you, I wouldn't be surprised, oh, what do you have to use their R for?
Well, that's just like a crime, baby. That's not proper metal pedal. That's not for metal.
No, it's a bass wah, so it's not a guitar wah. But
that's right, yeah.
I have the gain turned on. It's got its own individual volume control, so I have the volume turned right up on it, and all of the wah sounds I need, I can. This is fantastic.
That's awesome, man.
The flanger I use in a different song though. So there's a song we play called We Bleed. And I use the flange for that. I kick it in just for certain sections of the song where I want to have that effect. So I can play away like that, and I can walk around the stage. I don't have to be at my little board, and it just does. I've got it set. It's a very wide sweep. And I just let it do its thing.
That's it, man.
So that's, but that's the only song I use the flanger in. The wah though, I use quite a bit. Particularly, well, there's a few songs, particularly in Carbon Black. Every now and then you want to have a bit of expression. But there's the first song I used the flange. The first song that I used the wah in. Was a song called To See Tonight, and that was one of the first songs that we wrote for this band. And there's an intro. So it's like an intro, and then Damon and I sort of do that together. But then it all sort of fades down, and the bass comes in and does its own sort of.
And then with the bass, I've noticed that you got a Warwick bass, but this is probably, this looked like you were telling me it was made in 93, 94, because it's got different pickups. It's got a Bellotone pickups, because I had them on my Ibanez, and they don't have that, just the high gain Warwick amps that we know and love.
Yeah, it's Warwick, like you said, this was built in 93, so it's a Fortress 5-string. This was built back in the day when Warwick was still manufacturing in Germany. So,
okay, that way.
So it's looking at more than 30 years old. This bass, but I've always not my first bass that I owned, but it's the first proper bass. My first bass was a bit of a rubbish one, but for this one, there was a teacher that I was seeing, and he got me in touch with the Warwick office in London, and this was a custom, so it was built to my specs really. It came with gold hardware, and I've done a bit of work on it. I hadn't used it for a long time because it needed a lot of love, and I'd sort of put it aside. And then it was my bro that, Steve, plays drums in Carbon Black, and he sort of said to me, "Rod, that Warwick bass is you, man. Why aren't you playing that Warwick bass?" And I was sort of saying, I've kind of retired it. He's like, "No, man, that's you. That's your, it's your identity." And he's right. He's bang on. Because when I gave it a birthday, it needed to be refretted. It needed a lot of work, and so I got it going again to a point where I was really happy with it. And he was right. He knows it better than me. But playing this bass again it's like getting an old friend back. Really. But I've changed the hardware, like I said. I put black hardware on it. The gold hardware hadn't aged very well, so we pitted it. So it's had a lot of work and a lot of love, and the refret was a few years ago. It's actually looking like it's almost close to needing another one now. But
well, basically, so last forever. I've got Pantera, you've got Damo to do every week.
That's right. But no, this is my baby, and so I've always had it. Interesting thing about this one too is it's got a brass nut. The Fortress has had brass nut back then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So a lot of the sort of the sound of this bass, yeah, a lot of its character sort of comes from the brass nut. But yeah, love it. It's good.
Mate, before we get you to play kind of some Carbon Black riffs, mate, it's great to have you on the lower end. Mate, it's good to have you, mate, in the stores, mate.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
No, all good, bro. Rob's going to play some kind of a riff from Carbon Black. Anyone in particular? I know I'll put you on the spot.
Well, I'll do, so the final track on Principium 2 is a song called Obey. And of all of the 5 tracks there, that's probably the song that we've reworked the most. There's new lyrics, new vocal melodies, and when we re-recorded that, it was a song that we'd kind of put aside because we thought, we've done all we can with that song. But when we reworked it and reimagined it, it's sort of become a new thing. And we play it, in rehearsal now, and we've played it live, and we're like, wow, why did we stop playing that song? You sort of forget why. But it's so we've fallen back in love with that one, really. It's like, we really enjoy playing it again. So I'll do a bit of that one.
No worries.
Got some wire in it.
No worries.
So,
All right, with the power of editing, I'll make myself disappear and we'll let Rob go.